Well, good morning, everybody. Today is a good day for a road trip, and we're going to take you with us. But first, we have to get new tires for the car, so why don't you come with us? Here we are at All Things Automotive. Get new tires, yay! They have a good selection of cars.
There you go. Wait, GMC.
Yeah, that's a big truck. I don't know if I can get into it.
Big enough for me.
Yeah. I probably need a step ladder. I don't think you have to blow the horn.
Nah.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Let's do a little magic, and just like that. And we have new tires on our car, and we're set to go. So let's move on with our day. And I know it's rainy, but it's going to be a good day.
I'll tell you what, it feels pretty good already.
New tires feel awesome.
Did you see? There's the body shop.
Yeah. Hopefully the rain will stop.
It was supposed to at 9 o'clock. It changed. Good grief. I'm hoping it does.
Me too.
Pretty good. Look at that big place.
That's American Legion. And there it is. Just park over here.
Or can you park back here?
Yeah.
A lot of people here.
There is. They must be going on a train ride.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just wondering where to park. I guess it don't matter.
So we made it to East Broad Top Railroad, and today we're going to go on a trolley ride. Do you want to go on a trolley ride with us? Come on, let's go. We're going to have a good time.
There's the trolley. We're getting a little one these days. Class B.
Yeah, our goal was to get a Class B.
What?
I said our goal was to get a Class B.
Yeah. And it did work.
Yeah, you locked it.
We got a book a train ride.
We will. We get a train ride.
They're from Colorado. Man. There's a couple more out of here. Ohio.
This must be a popular place.
Yeah.
They have a food truck here.
Did you want something like that or just regular?
I don't know.
Or just a regular restaurant?
A regular restaurant.
Andy's Outback Grill. It's definitely Outback.
Yeah, really.
Really.
Good, how are you?
I gotta come down here tomorrow, but I had left my lunch bag. We definitely got a shindig going over there.
Huh.
I know they have some kind of special event. I forget what it is.
Huh.
They're good.
This is schedule.
Yeah, it's the railroad.
Yeah. There's tours you can do on here too. Train ride, tours, trolley ride, which we're going to do today.
Going the other way.
Let's go over here. You got a little bit of time. Huh? Looks like an old schoolhouse.
Yeah.
I want to go over here.
Capsule buried 1976, not to be used until 2076.
Wow. We came from that direction.
What?
We came from that direction.
Here we go.
And you do come from this direction. What time you got?
I don't know. 10:53.
Oh,
What is it? 11:45.
yeah.
A little under.
Alright, let's go.
I didn't know it was on lunch. Freight office. It seems pretty frightening, don't it? Oh,
Yeah.
That's not the break kind of office.
No, it's not.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, once in a while I'll put some music.
Put the load up here, right?
Yeah.
Go for a trolley ride today. It is cool. The old trains. Tours.
Shop tours beginning here. What's that?
Can you go in?
Yeah, you can.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Must be like logbook stuff.
Morning.
Good morning.
Y'all here for the tour?
Oh, we're here for the trolley ride.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Trolley's, I think in 3 minutes, there's a ceremony about the Johnstown Trolleys. It's Johnstown Trolley Day.
Okay.
So that's,
Oh.
I think it's supposed to start at 11.
Oh, okay.
So your timing is great.
Yeah. New 60s here. Over there they are.
Oh,
Yeah, I saw that one. That vehicle in there.
yeah.
But yeah, like I said,
Yeah, I got just last week to reviews it, and I have no idea how long it was. Go ahead, I'll talk to you after you drop that. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm turning back away from all that trouble. Smooth road, no detour.
And that's neat.
I'll find you in the morning.
Johnstown Car Day. We have a few special guests with us today. First, we have Justin Kipp from Camtran, which is the current day successor to Johnstown Traction Company. Justin is right over here. He's going to say a few words in a little bit. We also have Wes Lambert, whose father operated trolleys in Johnstown and was fortunate to have operated on the last day of service. We're not sure which car he operated, but there were only 3 cars operating on the last day. It was 355, 311, and 352, which sadly no longer is with us because it got destroyed in a car barn fire at a different museum. So there was a good chance, 2/3, 67% chance, that he operated one of our cars on the last day of operations. So every June we commemorate the day the trolley service ended in Johnstown, which is June 11th, 1960. To go to the beginning, on April 18th, 1882, Johnstown Passenger Railway Company was formed, and the first cars to be used were small wooden cars pulled by horses or mules. Only a few years later, May 31st, 1889, anyone who lives in Johnstown probably has that date embedded in their memory. That was a very grim day in Johnstown's history, as the Great Flood devastated the entire Conemaugh Valley, killing 2,209 people, leaving Johnstown in complete ruins. When it was time to rebuild the city and its infrastructure, New tracks were laid in place of the old ones, and a powerhouse was built. First revenue trip was one of the new single truck electric trolleys, took place on July 28, 1891. So basically 2 years between the time the city was in complete ruins at least until the trolley car system was back up and running, and not just with horse cars, but with electric trolley cars. Johnstown Traction Company would come into existence on February 23rd, 1910. It would continue to operate for over 50 years while becoming one of the last cities to operate trolleys, last of the smaller cities or small towns. Johnstown was also the smallest city in the United States to operate PCC cars, like our Newark number 6 or our Philadelphia 2743, which is the green car just out the door here on my left. Sadly, most other trolley systems were abandoning trolley operations in the 1930s and 40s. Johnstown was purchasing brand new cars. They acquired 17 new PCCs in 1947. Sadly to say, none of those survived when the preservation movement began, because no one thought they were historic enough at that point. They were only 13 years old when Johnstown shut down operations. So those were modern day things, like if Camtran, let's say for example, had buses that were built in 2012, you wouldn't consider them historic, right? But if you have buses that were built in 1983, yeah, you're pushing. So there's a big difference in the timeline of what they considered historic. So car 311, the one right outside here on the curve, that was built in 1922 by Wasson Manufacturing in Springfield, Massachusetts. It ran in Bangor, Maine until 1941. This car and 6 others came down to Johnstown and eventually became the first car in our fleet. Arriving here in 1960 and first operating in 1962. 355, which is the star of the day, was built in 1925 for Johnstown by the St. Louis Car Company, marking 100 years old this year. Car left Johnstown in 1960, headed to a proposed trolley museum in New Hampshire. This museum really never got off the ground, and in the late 60s, one of our members was vacationing near there, decided to stop in, saw a for sale sign in the window. Came back here, brought it to our board's attention. Board pursued purchasing the car, bringing it back to Pennsylvania. In 2007, we rolled it out of the shop as a complete restoration, and it looks like it does today. And at that time, that made our fleet of orange cars grow by 50%. We had 2, we're up to 3. The big joke is that Rockhill Trolley Museum doesn't run anything if it's not orange. At this time, I'll turn the podium over to Justin McKipp.
Thanks, Mark. Good morning, everybody. Appreciate you all having me out today. Again, my name is Justin McKipp. I'm the Chief Safety Officer for Camtran, the current transportation service for Cambria County that took place of the Johnstown Traction Company. Across the county, everyone knows me as Skip, and across the state as well, so feel free to call me Skip. If you'd like to chat about anything, I'll be here for a short period afterwards. But they sent me with this lovely list of all these points in time to cover, which would take about an hour. But I'll cover the high level end of it. So Right now, Camstram operates 26 total fixed routes. So fixed route service covers downtown Johnstown, up in the Westmont area. And I asked the gentleman here earlier to rotate the signs. You see the Ferndale signs on the cars. There's multiple locations in Johnstown that these cars touch, and a lot of the routes that these cars ran are the same routes that we run today in our bus service. So jumping forward, out of those 21 fixed routes, annually we haul about 850,000 passengers a year. So we stay incredibly busy. We also have a shared route service. Our shared route service is significantly less. It's about 600,000. But the shared route service runs out of our Evansburg office, still within Cambria County. Shared route is mostly what they consider MATP, which is medical transportation. For folks that need to get to a hospital, they need to get dialysis, things along that line. So your smaller buses run the majority of the outskirts of the county, the urban areas, I should say, are covered by the fixed routes downtown. So some of the technology that we have in place now in the history of buses, obviously when they first came on board, diesel was king. Diesel ran for years and years. About approximately 10 years ago, Camtran started acquiring CNG, compressed natural gas buses. So way more efficient, way more environmentally friendly. We get just as much mileage, if not more, out of natural gas. We looked into the option of electric, and a lot of our partners, including PPT and SEPTA out of Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, being the biggest transit authorities in the state. And research going into that, we found that that's not really cost effective with batteries right now. Does it mean we'll go that route in the future? Possibly, but CNG is definitely king right now. Out of the fleet, a little over 50% of them are CNG. Johnstown specific, we do have a couple spots that are still sensitive because of CNG buses, the tanks are on top and they're much higher, that are sensitive to diesel. So we're always going to have a couple contingency fleets of diesel to be able to go under the overpass at the Bar Mill, the far end of town, for those familiar on the west end of town. Places like that will always have some older style buses that we need until infrastructure changes and we have bridges and stuff to get over those things. But again, I want to thank Dawn for having us out today, what you all are doing here, and the visitors as well. And I hope you enjoy your day. We did. We had one bus painted up in Johnstown with traction colors, and at any time if anyone's in Johnstown or can skip, just remember the name, stop by the Woodville office. We have a small, we'll call it a mini museum. It's a foyer. But if you're passing through, there's a lot of items from the traction company, and there's some controls, some operator stools, different things along that line that are pretty interesting. So if you stop by, if you drop my name, I'll come out, I'll meet you, I'll invite you in to take a peek because that's inside the building. It's not really open to the public. But if you're into that, I hope to have you there. So. Any questions? Awesome. Thank you much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Skip. Next, we're going to bring up Wes Lambert. Wes is the son of one of the operators on the last day of operations in Johnstown. Absolutely. Go ahead. So Wes sent some pictures to me, and I had them printed out, and he's going to talk about them here.
Okay, I'll talk about my Aunt Jimmy first. Is there any of her family that made it? I know a bunch of the cousins were talking about it, but obviously they didn't get here. Geez, a heat roll in my eyes in some way. Her husband had died at maybe 32 or 34 years old. Left her with 8 kids. Obviously, they were pretty busy. But he died and left her with the 8 kids, and she went to work for the traction company because that was the only job she could find that would support her family. And she raised those 8 kids all by herself working for the traction company. Which, back then, women didn't work much after the war. Rosie the Riveter was supposed to have retired. Okay, the picture in the middle back there, I thought was my dad until we enlarged it and enhanced it. I took a good look at it. No, that's not him. I think it might have been Clyde Berry or one of his good friends from the tractor company. But this is a picture of my dad, and he told you mostly about what he told you about the history of streetcar that pretty much paralleled Dad's career. Dad drove trackless trolley and bus for a few years, and about 1965, he had a heart attack, and that was the end of his driving career. So I just thought I'd tell you a little bit of a personal story that illustrates a little bit about the kind of man he was. He had moved the family with 4 kids to a house a block from the car barn there in Moxon. And that's where they lived, coming all through World War II. And coming toward the end, they didn't think that the Army would want a man with 30 kids, but they came and tapped on his shoulder. So he left Mom and 4 kids there and went to serve Uncle Sam until the end of the war. Came back, and he didn't like living in a rented house. He kept saving every penny he could. And I had one of his original Johnstown Company credit union books at home. And there were some weeks his deposit was 27 cents. So obviously he didn't have a lot of money, but he saved what he could. Saved enough money to make a down payment on a piece of dirt up in Richland Township. And it's a piece of dirt nobody else wanted to on a steep hill and it was all scrub brush. There wasn't even any timber on it, which was something everybody looked for. But he got an army barracks and he purchased somewhere and put it there on cement blocks. And he installed running water in the front yard. My brother said, yeah, it was running water. We had to run after we got the front. And then, of course, you had to run to the other place, which was an outhouse down back. But that's where he lived and raised all by that time it was 5 kids. I was there too. But he kept saving money. Since he didn't have rent anymore, he saved enough money to buy a place in so Paul had to know the area. And it was an old building. It was abandoned by the Central Telephone Company. And that was their office and dormitory for the operators. And we converted that to a house, and that's where he raised everybody. And it had a real sink, or 2 real sinks with real running water and a commode and a bathtub. We thought we were living in a life of luxury. Yeah. So that's where they lived until, well, that's another story. Then got married in 1996 to his childhood sweetheart, moved to California. That's another story. Anyway, just wanted to tell you a little bit about him. He was a man of faith. He believed in Jesus with heaven, but he was right. Anyway, that's a little bit about him. I don't want to bore you all day with it. He was a great man in my opinion. Had an 8th grade education. Oh, one other thing. 4 of his kids graduated from college. That was totally unknown, but he was a kid. All right, if you want to ask any questions, I'll be hanging around here. We're going to take a ride after a bit, too. Thank you. And my favorite grandson, Elijah, and my favorite granddaughter, Rebecca. And he's my favorite son, too, by the way.
Okay, so before we wrap things up, ask for you.
Wanting to have a talk here.
All right, so before we wrap things up here, I just want to point out our car plate program over here on the wall. It is a little bit more in depth. History presentation of Johnstown Traction Company, as well as history of our cars as well. Just want to point out up here on the left-hand side, we do have some T-shirts and some other Rockhill / Johnstown things for sale, which are in our museum store. If anybody would like to purchase any of those. And just again, on behalf of RTY, Rockhill Trolley Museum, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out today and being a part of it. And I guess it's now time to get to the good stuff, which is birthday cake and riding trolleys. So we do have some birthday cake up here. Before we get So far, does anybody have any questions for me? All right. So I just want to get a picture of this cake before we dive in. As soon as the train unloads and our crew members come back in, we'll get this. Yeah.
How can I get one of them Pepsi Cola side?
We'll dig in this cake.
Yeah, they're pretty neat. Big fun. Yeah.
So it's chocolate, vanilla,
I'm not sorry. Everybody welcome.
Sorry, Bob.
Hey, the door's locked.
Notice.
Yeah.
I guess we could sit there.
Sit here.
Yeah. Should we enough room?
That's old Lone Ranger.
Yeah.
Nice battery, but.
Sure, why not? Morning.
Morning.
You folks visiting? Where are you guys visiting from today?
Indiana, in Kentucky.
Where are you from? I live about 9 miles from here. I'm from Rockhill, but I volunteer here.
Oh, okay.
I run through the weekdays mostly, so I come down to local on Saturday for the
There you go, yeah.
deer.
Oh, wow. Deer. That was cool.
Yeah, it is.
Yesterday we had a thunderstorm right before
Like this
As long as they don't stay there and look at you, we're okay. Last year, out here with a washed out on the right hand side, so on the ledge of the mountain, we kept seeing a nice kind of see them almost every morning on the first time. Well, one of the guys did see about it. So, yeah. Anyway, when you look at the mountain now, you're wondering if it's practice. We got a good place to go.
Old city.
push end press and I'll throw that switch.
Okay.
We'll take that and put it on the other end of the train.
Now this is a double-ended car, so we aren't going to pick the car up. We're just going to simply move the seats back. Did you see the deer?
Yeah.
Surprised me too. And once we had a bear sat right on the middle of the tracks.
Oh, wow.
So anyway, just put the seats like this.
Go ahead.
If you want, you could probably move up to one of the front seats
Okay,
too,
you want to move up?
because they're going to go back that way.
If you want to get outside and take a picture, that'd be fine. The other car's coming up, so we got a little while to wait here.
Water's nice.
The emblem is in the center of the car. You can always, what you maybe can do, if you can convince them, go to the stand at the control room, go out and take pictures.
Oh, I'm good, thank you.
That's fine.
That's scary.
You can do that. Well, there's no steering involved. We take
Oh,
that part out.
got it.
I'm not allowed to do this, but I do volunteer here, okay? And I want to welcome all of you to the Rockhill Trolley Museum. The men and ladies that you see in uniform, and there are some of us here today that aren't dressed properly for uniform, we are an all-volunteer staff. Okay, so we are responsible for car restoration. We do the operation, we do the track work, the overhead work, whatever it might be. And as they mentioned to you, this car turns 100 this year, which is our second in collection to reach that milestone. Some of our cars are well beyond that time period as well. Okay. Now, if you can imagine, my family, my ancestors all settled in the Johnstown area and lived in some of the communities around the city itself, primarily in Moxham and other places. So when you wanted to go from where you lived in the suburb, you maybe have gone down to the street corner, you would pay your fare, and they would take you into Center City and in downtown. And that's where you would go and do your shopping. My parents told me that the shopping day to do in Johnstown when they were growing up in the 50s and 60s would have been Thursday evening. So you would ride in Thursdays, you would be able to get your dinner, be able to do your shopping all downtown, multiple department stores downtown and other shops as well. If my parents wanted to go on a date together, they would go and they would pay their fare and they could ride the trolley downtown and go to the movie theater and come home probably for less than about 50 cents. For the couple, for an evening, all right? So in some ways, I'm kind of a product of a trolley system, because this is how my parents would get out and go on a date together. This is how my grandparents went to and from their appointments. So if you would live out, even not only Moxham, but Coopersdale, Morellville, Roxbury, places like that, you can catch the car at the loop and then ride into the Center City, okay? And some of those places, even today, that loop is now paved, and the buses turn around on those loops in a couple of locations, all right? And one of those loops, and I forget which one it is, actually has a pizza shop right near it, or actually right in the middle of it, okay? And I think that might be out towards Roxbury. I'm not exactly sure.
It is.
It is? Okay, there we go. So cars serve a huge purpose, okay? Trolleys never ran here at Rockhill or Orbizonia. The closest community is at Huntington. They had a little over a mile of right-of-way themselves from the Pennsylvania Railroad Station, took you up through town, and stopped in front of Founders Hall for Juniata College. And it was a Sometimes it ran, sometimes it didn't. It was not in business or it wasn't in business kind of thing. It ended up on sheriff's sale at the end of its life expectancy. So we're similar in distance there. Other places in the area would have been Lewistown, and down here in Chambersburg, Hagerstown. Some of you visited Gettysburg. They had a trolley line for a period of time for the tourists. So the car lines were out there, and they did begin to disappear in the 30s and the 40s. Okay? But while you're with us today, we hope you enjoy your ride. If you have questions, make sure you ask the staff members, and we'll do our best. Okay? When you get in town too, there again, make sure you check out the York Railways 163 car. That is an all-volunteer, 100% restoration project as well. And please check some of those cars out. Take time. Go in the car barn if they offer it to you.
Stay on the running track.
Also, if you have a combo ticket for the East Broad Top, I recommend the shop tour as well. Okay?
Appreciate it. You're welcome. I got a flag up somewhere.
Wait for that.
It starts on its own. It's an air pressure.
Yeah.
The compressor kicks on once
Mr. Turn.
poundage drops. You see the dial.
We'll have to follow
So
this.
once it drops about 6 pounds, 5 pounds, it'll kick back on.
There's a second trolley.
The air, you can see all the pipes in the floor one. The air is interlocked with the brakes. And the control handle has a magnet in it. So if you got something in the car goes into another SG, it'll stop. So you have to hold that control handle down the whole time.
I'm gonna sit here a second.
But we still use 2 people. One reason is that another reason is, maybe more important, we have a lot of children, and we have to keep track of them. So we have older people that should know better, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Roy?
So
He kind of looked at you when he said that too.
So anyway, we have 2. That green car, that streamliner there from Philly, that was actually built for the conductor. So conductors, some places use quite late, and it's because they had a lot of people going on and all, and it took time to make change in their
Racing.
Saw something that was open, and I looked back here. It was one of the streets near.
Yeah, that would we had to shut it all the time because they would take you off.
It'll pop. There's a controller that'll pop, and it'll put the air brakes on and stop the car immediately.
So you ain't going to work.
No, sure. No, there is an override switch. Yeah. Ding ding.
Being a single lane car, it's not, doesn't, platform don't take off.
Quite a while. We used to, when I have family that still live over here. Every couple months. My mom said that they used to put buses. Yeah, but that.
So if you're enjoying the trolley ride,
We'll take care of that later on, but we'll continue in town, okay?
I don't know what I'm going to find. This is a working shop, so please don't touch any equipment that might come on. It could injure somebody, and you don't want to touch the tools. You'll have to walk around the fire hose. And you might wonder, why would you have fire hose piled outside a trolley shop? They're cutting the ends off of this, stringing wire through the middle, and they're using it to rewire a car. That's a good idea. I thought you were going to say because there might be a fire. Now, with any luck, hey, right on the first try.
Oh, wow.
Now, since it's Johnstown Day, we would be running those electric cars even if this did run. But usually I tell people, this is the car I really want to take you for a ride on. This is a fun car. This is a typical open bench summer car. Now, for those who rode with me, I mentioned about how the trolley business was the 5th largest industry in the United States. They carry 15 billion people a year. This was built by the J.G. Brill Company in Philadelphia, and they were the biggest trolley car builder in the world, and that really meant something back then. This was part of a big order for Rio de Janeiro in 1912. It was a little late to be building those in this country, but these were the most popular trolleys with the riding public ever. The public loved these things, and you know they had little upright poles, 2 of them at each of these seats that you could use to help pull yourself up here when you wanted to get on. It wasn't quite as hard as it might look. But the trolley companies hated them. And the reason they hated them was they thought it was financially imprudent to have to buy a closed car for the same people in the winter. So they came up with ways to save money. Now, again, those who rode with me, I mentioned earlier about the trucks. The trucks are your wheel and motor assemblies under the car. And so they said, why don't we just buy 1 set of trucks and 2 car bodies, one for the winter and one for the summer. Now we can pick this up with a crane. The guys in the shop can wheel the trucks out from the one body, wheel them under the other body, and lower it with the crane. Twice a year we'll just convert from summer to winter and winter to summer. Only they didn't save all that much money because it took them better than 2 months twice a year to do it. So then they went to Plan B. Plan B was called a convertible car. We don't have one of those in our collection, but it's easy to describe. You put a storm door on from down here to up there, screw it on for the winter, take it off for the summer, pile it against the side of the car barn. Now you've got an immediate problem. You can't get in the winter. So you've got to change the design, put an aisle down the middle, and there goes the 5th of the seats. Still took them 2 or 3 weeks twice a year. So they went to Plan C. Plan C is a semi-convertible car. Now you have a lower window that catches up with the top window, and you push them both up into the ceiling, and you try to fool people into thinking that that closed car is really this. Now I have one of those to show you over in the building next to us after we look in here. I'll tell you a little bit more, just because it's kind of interesting. This was all before OSHA, but compared to the United States, I mean, we're saints compared to Brazil. Now this car behind you has what's called multiple unit operation. That means if you want to hook a bunch of them together, you can hook the brake hose from one to the next to the next. Your electric line goes from one to the next to the next. The one operator is making the motors go all the way back through the train. When he applies the brakes are applying all the way back through the train. Well, in Brazil, they decided they needed more capacity. They got 2 unpowered trailers to put on here. And now it's just too much for the brakes. So what they did was, if something got in their way, they rang the bell and hit it. Now the other thing they did in Brazil was they only stopped for women. For men, they'd slow down to 5 to 7 miles an hour, expect you to hop on and off as they went by. Now I want to show you the thing back here. This is a gem of a car. Oh, why don't you gather up just short of this little thing here? I'm going to go around to the end and turn the lights on so you can see it.
It's pretty.
Okay, now this is what's called an interurban car because they ran between cities.
1909 built some
This was
photos.
built in 1908 by the Coleman Company of Cleveland, Ohio, to run on the Aurora, Elgin, and Chicago. Now, Aurora and Elgin were back then two cities west of Chicago. Now, I guess they're two suburbs west of Chicago. And these ran downtown on the L, and then out on their own right of way. Now, the L, if you may know, has third rail pickup like the subways do. So they ran on trolley wire out on their right of way. Downtown, on both of these trucks, there's a little thing at both ends, here and here, and they mounted an insulator on there. It looks kind of like a railroad tie, usually painted red. And then the third rail shoe to pick up the power is attached to that. At any rate, this car had a top speed of 90 miles an hour when it was built. These were the premier cars of the trolley industry. Just look in, you see the mahogany wood, the gold leaf paint on the ceilings, leaded glass windows. You know, they were the premier car of the trolley industry, but the little city street cars made all the money, and most of these companies went bankrupt in the 20s and disappeared. This company, however, somehow managed to do a financial reorganization in the 20s, and they came back as the Chicago, Aurora, and Elgin, and lasted into the 50s. Now, in later years, as patronage dwindled, and one of the reasons patronage dwindled on this line was because part of the interstate highway system cut their line for a couple of months, and people had to get off one car, walk across the highway construction, get on the car on the other side, and it really ruined their business. But as they ran out of money, what they did was they just slapped blue paint over the whole interior of the car. And then up on the roof, instead of taking the canvas off and putting a new one on and repainting it, they tarred the roof, pitch, windows and all. Oh, no. Then they boarded over these leaded glass windows. You could see them on the inside, you just didn't see them on the outside. And finally, on a Friday noon in 1956, they got permission to abandon service, left the commuters downtown, and quit. Now, if you have questions, I'm glad to answer them, but try to imagine where they got to that place where they ran out of the third rail and they came to the overhead trolley wire. So your conductor's leaning out the back door with a trolley pole, waiting for the wire. You're buzzing along at about 80 or 90 miles an hour, and he hits that thing on the fly, and then he goes into this little wooden cabinet back here, and there's this big knife switch, and he throws it from the one source to the other source with this big blue arc, and that's basically how they ran. They even had storm windows for the Chicago winters here. You can see the double windows. There's a picture down here on the end. There's a picture here too. When they started restoring this car, of course the windows were all boarded over. There was a window ledge here that ran the whole length of the car. We discovered from these old pictures that wasn't the way it was supposed to be, so we put it back the way it looked originally. And this was the picture they used to as their guide. But here they have a picture of the car the way it came here. Looks like a Mary Kay cosmetic car, all pink. It was faded red. But if you look at this picture, second from the bottom on the left, you can see the tar on the roof and the boarded over windows and the whole length of the car window ledge, the whole thing. One of our guys is so clever, he can make a piece of wood that goes from here to there and goes around like that. Now, I do want to tell you this. If you get tired of me at any time, just walk away. I don't mind. You can't insult me. I'll take you next door. I'll show you what little we have over there because we got a bunch of it pulled out today. But I'll take you next door and I'll show you
a little bit more. Oh, I didn't tell you why this is in here. The wheels on this car were getting a little weak, and we actually derailed it out here on a switch. And they said, well, okay, we got to do something about it. So they raised $100,000 to fix the wheels. So they took the trucks out, brought them in the shop, and somebody said, while it's in here and all apart, shouldn't we take the electric motors up to Huntington Electric Motor and just check to make sure how they are? So they did that, and while they were up there, Huntington Electric Motor burned down. So we kind of lost all the motors. Now we've got all the stuff. By the end of the season, we think it may be running again. It would cost a lot more than the $100,000 now, but we're slowly bringing it back. We found that a lot of the wiring in there was getting old, and we needed to. Here's some of that fire hose. They're stringing wire into. But come on over to the building next door.
It's gotta be cheaper than buying other conduit for it. Especially as they go, they only use fire hose.
Now I have a couple things I have to say before I go in here. First of all, we built this building jointly with the East Broadtop way back when. They own half of it. We don't touch or look at their stuff. I'll show you our stuff. Number two, this door runs on a metal rail right here. Don't trip over it. Number three, there's an open pit on the left. Don't fall in it. Number four, don't walk between the rails where I'm standing in the building, because the grease that drops off the gearboxes at night gets on your shoes and you can't get it off. And I know you won't know how to do that. So just follow me back the middle, and I'll try to get you past the pit, and we'll look at what's in the back. While we're out here, the PCC car up there, that stands for President's Conference Committee, PCC. And it was the presidents of the trolley companies in the 1930s who got together and formed this committee to try to redesign the trolley car to save their industry from the automobile, which they now realize was really going to be a threat. Up till then, they all thought it was a funny idea that was going to go away. Now, that car is different in a lot of ways. Number one, it runs with a foot pedal. Between the foot pedal and your 600-volt motors under the car, there's a 32-volt battery system. It accelerates faster, decelerates faster, but I'm sure you noticed that whichever car you were riding, we coasted on, especially coming back. You coast that car very long, and the dynamic electric brakes apply lightly. The more you coast it, the heavier they get, and it will stop if you don't keep giving it power. The color scheme on there was the last color scheme for the downtown Philadelphia private trolley company in the days before SEPTA. And what was different about it for this car was that maroon stripe around the middle. I mean, they had been using green and cream for years as a company. That paint job was donated to us by the Friends of the Philadelphia Trolleys. It cost them $100,000 to do that and the seats. If you look closer at it this afternoon, you'll notice that the windows don't look so good. It would have cost a couple $100,000 more to make the windows look good, because SEPTA scrapped them all and put school bus windows in their place. And so we have to rebuild them from scratch. Now come on back to the middle. As you go past this car up here, I want you to look at two things so I can tell you about them after you've all seen them. Right now you can see the two slats across the front. But then just beyond the steps, if you look under the step, you're going to see what looks like a whole bunch of little pitchforks with little wooden rollers on the end. So I just want you to see all that before we get to stop to talk about it.
That's a pit.
Watch the pit. Now, did you all get a chance to see the little thing under the step and the two slats in the front? Suppose you were so unfortunate as to be lying right across the tracks just as the trolley approaches. Your body trips the two slats in the front, the other thing falls down on the rail and scoops you up just in the nick of time. And no, we haven't tried it. Now, when we were looking at the open car, I mentioned the semi-convertible car, the one where the bottom window catches up with the top window, pushes up into the ceiling. Well, that's this. And it's pretty neat open, but people weren't fooled. It wasn't as neat as the open car. And we don't even do it anymore because they get up there and we can't get them back down. This car design dates to about 1904. We have a 1904 grill car down in Car Barn 2. Looks almost like this, except this is single truck and that one's double truck. That car that I'm talking about was built to run in Oporto, Portugal. Well, most of these companies had to rip them apart and repair them over the years, and they got the idea that they could save a lot of money. Why do we buy these from the Americans? We know everything about them. Let's just build them here. So this is a copy. It was built in Oporto in 1929. They kept doing it till 1945, did save a ton of money, ended up with a whole city that was half a century out of date technologically, which in the end didn't turn out too bad because now it's good for tourism. But come on back. This one is quite different. Yeah. Now what we have here is a snow sweeper. It kicks the snow about 8 feet out to the right. If anybody has visions of that chain flying around, that's not the way it works. The mechanism is in that enclosed tube that comes out the front, and all that chain does is run a little screw drive that raises and lowers the broom a little bit. These are only good on snow. Do it on ice, you shave the bristles off, you have to have a plow if there's ice. This was built by the chief mechanic at the Chicago and Joliet Electric Railway in 1907 out of old parts. They were a high-speed interurban line like the CA&E line that we saw over in the other building. And this is a little single truck car, which means just like that when it bounces all over the place when it runs, and they hated it. They didn't even keep it a whole year, and they sold it to Scranton, Pennsylvania, where they ran it right up to the end of service in the mid-50s. Scranton had it painted blue and white. This went to a museum at Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. It was really a rather nice museum. McGee Carpet Company ran the museum. And in '72, the Agnes flood pretty much destroyed the museum. So they repainted it. We've kept the color they put it in. Here on the left, remember the big interurban car next door? Well, here's your 1931 version of the same thing. These were called bullet cars. They were built by Brill in Philadelphia to run on the Philadelphia and Western, which ran from 69th Street, Philadelphia, to Norristown. And you did not climb these steps to get in the car. The platforms were right at this level. This is just for the motorman if he has to get off for some emergency or in the car barn or whatever. These also had a top speed of 90 miles an hour, but they're much lighter in weight. Their line, unlike the ones out in the Chicago area, which were pretty much straightaways, their line did a lot of this kind of thing. And but they had a speed record on that line because they could accelerate so quickly and they were light and they didn't have to worry about it. Now, give you an idea, they had 10 of these cars in 1931 and 10 older ones that were maybe 10 years older to run that line. Now, it's a half-hour trip from 69th Street to Norristown. They ran from the beginning of the 30s till the end of the 80s, that's almost 60 years, every day, 5 in the morning till 1 the next day. You needed 4 of those 20 cars all the time because one had to be coming and going and 2 loading at the end. Then at rush hour, you need to run every 10 minutes. So that takes a lot more cars. But they couldn't get all the people in. So they'd couple 2 or 3 together at rush hour. And they still couldn't get all the people in. So they would run express halfway and couple some more together to make the local stops out to there at rush hour. Now they did that for 60 years. You can guess how many miles. There's no mileage marker on these things. But they put a lot of miles on these and it still runs. Now, it's changed since the last time I was in here. There's paint on the bottom now. This is an operable car. We took it out of service a couple of years ago because we were having trouble with the interior lighting. And it turned out that the trouble was that the insulation was peeling off the wires in the ceiling and they were shorting out against each other. So they took the ceiling down, fixed all that, and that was going to be the extent of it to come back to run again. But those of you who rode with me in 311 out there and saw the pictures of what they did for 7 years have a feeling about what's happening to this car. So the roof has been refixed and repainted. They're now putting it back into the original P&W color on the outside instead of the SEPTA colors that we inherited when we got the car. Now the last thing I have to show you back here on the right, this car was a freight motor on one of those Midwest interurban lines. Now, freight was never more than 3% of the business, but it was 3% of a big business. For those of you in eastern Pennsylvania, you're probably aware of the Hershey Chocolate Factory. For over 10 years, all milk went into that factory on trolley freight. All you need is basically a freight car and might have a slightly rounded end in it, controllers and poles and electric motors, and you're in the trolley freight business. Now, just like so many of those Midwest interurban lines, this line went bankrupt in the 20s, and the creditors seized this car to guarantee payment, and they built a building around it in a cornfield to protect their investment, and as far as we know, there was never any payment. Then in the 1940s, the Philadelphia and Western, now that's this car over here, they had a car about this size and shape that they were using not for trolley freight, but for maintaining their right-of-way. And it caught fire and burned up in the mid-40s. And they got word this thing was out there in the cornfield, and they bought it from the farmer and tore the building down and ran it from the mid-40s till the end of the 90s, and it still runs. It gives you an idea about how durable these things are. Now I've pretty much run out of things to show you in this building. We have another whole building I could show you if you want. But I'm not going to force anybody. If I believe we will be running other cars today. I've been told that the green car out there can make a run. I can't run it because I don't really like to run that one. But I think I could get permission to run the little red one. I know it's Johnstown Day, so it might be a hard sell, but I think I could get permission. Would anyone like me to do anything else for you? If somebody wants to go down to the other building, all the rest of the collection's down there.
Is that the one that's at 245?
Somebody out from here on a trolley car.
You said you'll go ahead.
You want to go out now?
Please.
Okay, let me try to find out first what they're doing over here.
He said he wanted to.
This is pretty fascinating.
Yes.
This is fascinating.
Well, they use this to kill the weeds and stuff like that.
Oh.
Looks like it. Yeah. Just kind of a pretty good movement.
Yeah.
By the time we walk out there, it'll take us 10 minutes.
Find the 115 store. We gotta get lunch somewhere.
Huh?
We gotta get lunch somewhere.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not sure where, but. It's pretty good. busy in here.
I know, it's busy. So if you ever come to East Bar Top, take a train ride or even a trolley ride.
I didn't know that they go in one of golf carts like that.
Oh yeah.
That wide. That's different.
Mm-hmm. East Bar Top truck. Well, today ended up being a beautiful day after all, so thank you for coming with us here on the trolley ride. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did, especially seeing that deer going across the track. That was really awesome. But I'll see you next time. Have an awesome day. Bye.